And we're back on whatever the name of this show is.
I guess it's Pajorge.
Is that pejor? It's pejorative.
It's pejorative.
It's the pejorative show. Yes.
Because we don't have Addy today. He's on the road, right? So it's pejorative.
Yeah, Addy is on the road, but he'll be back later in time for Dave Underdown. So we will. We're going to be talking to Dave Underdown later.
You get the lightweights in first, and then you bring in the heavyweights. I get it. And Addy only. Okay.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah. Well, I don't know. You're getting me warmed up, George. So
Well,
it is.
you need a warm up for Dave because he'll hit you with a lot of stuff. So it'll be good stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like trying to keep up with his Twitter threads. It's like drinking water out of a fire hose.
Yeah, it's like catching machine gun bullets with your teeth as they're But
and when you start the thread, you're always asking your question: where is this taking me? Where's it going to go?
Yeah. Well, see, I speak Dave, so I went through the whole immersion process, and the cool thing is it's at a light speed communication thing. When they brought in the fiber optic at gigabit speed.
Or like Neo in the Matrix when they just say download a program.
Yeah, Chinook, CH-40 helicopter.
Yeah, I want to tell me how to fly a helicopter, right?
So that's Dave. Dave Underdown, great guest.
Dave Underdown. Yeah. So let me see. If we comments? I don't see anybody in here yet.
Well, I retweeted this, so I think there will be people coming along. It could be that they're all. Oh, there we go. Some
people popped in. Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
Indeed. So, George, it's only Azovstal.
Yeah, it's only Azovstal.
So Azovstal is a steel factory in Mariupol.
Yeah. It's between two towns.
Yeah.
Mariupol is a port, and then the other one is called Berdyansk. Berdyansk is where there was this kind of pell-mell project by the Ukrainian Navy to build a new naval base there as fast as possible. And that's a little bit more toward Odessa. And the complicating factor here is that Mariupol is right on the edge of Donbass, so it's the perfect place to do. It was actually not called Operation Sea Spray. It was called Operation Sea Breeze. But you get the same idea. You put stuff up into the air, and the breeze takes it in, and people get sick, and then you can do blood samples and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So if you caught the Ice Age farmer story that's at the top of the Duke report today, he was talking about. I think it was him that was talking about. Using drones to spread swine flu to pigs in China in order for the government to take control of the protein industry. So basically taking all the small farmers out. So it's not just people that are being sprayed. It seems like there's other things being sprayed too.
It seems like life.
I just want to address Dave. Dave, it's whatever time Addy said it is. So Addy's on the road. He texted me. He said he couldn't make the show. So I thought it was going to be at our normal time, which is usually 7 my time. But if it's 6 your time, I'm 7 my time. If it's 6 my time, that's fine too. So sorry about all the professional show business that we're dealing with here.
They call that stage direction here in Hollywood.
Right.
Well, I'll make this commitment to everyone. I'll stay here ready at the post until 6 o'clock to make sure Addy's here if that should come about. But I think
thank you, George.
yeah. Because just even to be on the same billet, with Dave Underdown is a true honor. So I'll be here if Addy can't make it back from the road.
All right. So I interrupted you with. Oh no, I was good for 7. The show said 6. Did the show say?
You were good for 7. Okay.
Which show said 6?
No,
Okay.
I think they're
Dave's
saying 7 Eastern.
No,
4 your time.
You know what? Dave is right. I got into complete. I have time zone craziness.
Dyslexia. Yeah.
Dyslexia, and I meant to set this up for 1 o'clock my time, and when I pushed the button, I think it said 3 o'clock my time. that's probably why one of the outlets, I think LinkedIn, wouldn't let me stream to it, because maybe I was 2 hours early in the way that I said it. So forgive me. I'm just a humble button clicker, and I clicked the wrong button. So there it is.
Well, the beautiful part about this story is never was so much time spent promoting another show. So
Indeed.
you're probably going to break the internet when Dave starts at 7 tonight Eastern time, 4 on your Pacific dial.
Indeed. Indeed.
So, but I did want to comment about the pigs. You know, it's tough enough being a pig. It's tough enough being a pig in China. But when you're sad and a pig in China and you're going to die, that's really when it's tough. And it was a SADS outbreak in 2018 that led to a huge, fantastically huge pig cull where they killed like 60 million pigs. It's not fun to watch the video. It's the squealing pigs and everything you would think a pig cull is in a bulldozer is what you see in the big pig cull. But more importantly, this research of SADS in pigs is very much like the spike protein research for how humans are affected with SARS. SADS to SARS? Let's test on pigs first in a massive way in China before we go big with not pig with humans. Well, there you have it. I think that's going to be the story of SARS in 2019 in China.
Yeah, well, in this report on Ice Age Farmer, Christian, the host on that show, is talking about chimeric gain of function done, I think, in 2009 with swine flu, bird flu, swine flu, basically creating these kind of killer cocktails that you've talked about many times before. But this video cites sources, so he pulls up the white papers and the articles. So it just confirms all of the things that you've been talking about for a long time.
Look to your friends who spray it in Dutch. Look to the Erasmus lab for bringing back these Spanish flus and various things, bringing back bird flu, combining bird flu with swine flu, H3N2. Those are your hemagglutinin spikes and your neuraminidase spikes. You got H1N1, you got H5N1 breakout now in Ukraine. You're not wrong if it reminds you of a Broadway show called Chimera. You remember the song from Chimera, 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 I love you, Chimera, chimeras are just a day away.
Isn't that what J.P. Morgan?
Yeah, it's all about chimeras. Right?
Yeah. So I'm confused. So catch me up, because my job is to represent the people watching who are scratching their head, going, "What is George talking about?"
Well, what George is talking about is spikes, right? And spikes is
so
the name.
Spikes are a molecular formation on DNA or on viruses.
You've seen the virus.
Yes.
You've seen all those pictures of the virus that look like dust balls, cat fur balls sometimes, or dandelions, the little red spikes that come out of the corona. Right. Those are the things that create attachment. And then once you've got attachment with one hand, you've seen the movies where the hero's holding on with one hand, Indiana Jones, and then he has to get that second hand on there to pull himself into the train car or the submarine or the plane or whatever, right? Well, guess what? Viruses have to do the same thing. That's your cell fusion. But if you don't get that first hand on there, you're out of business, and that's the spike. Now, what if Indiana Jones had several arms? So if he didn't catch it with the first arm, the speeding train, he had a second flu spike arm if he didn't get it with the corona spike. Or if he didn't get it with the corona spike, he got it with another one, maybe Congo Crimea hemorrhagic fever. So these are Frankensteinian multi-spike viruses that take several viruses and put them together into this thing called Chimera, and later they're made into Broadway hits. Not kidding. There's a
The only question is, does anybody get out of the show alive?
No, that's the whole idea. It's like, we can't get you with flu, we get you with the Congo Crimea hemorrhagic fever. If we don't get you with
because the flu, most people can get over the flu if they just stay hydrated, right?
This is a pandemic flu. This isn't just your regular run-of-the-mill flu.
Yeah.
This is the real deal. And there's a
I'm
lab.
gonna. You're making me want to drink water, though. So I'm gonna drink.
Please
some water.
do. Please do. You cannot make this stuff up. The gain of function lab in Rotterdam, something's rotten in Rotterdam, they used to say. Shakespeare used to say. Right? You remember him saying that, or maybe it was Denmark.
Denmark,
But-
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But this is the true story where they actually go and resurrect Spanish flu. Now, who does this? That's not biodefense. If it's in some ice station zebra ice pack in Alaska, why do you take that out there, dig it out, bring it into a lab, and then start working on it?
Because you have to prepare yourself in case your enemy is also doing the same thing, so that you can protect your population against them. Isn't that kind of that's always the argument, isn't it? There are bad players out in the world, and if we know how to do this, then they know how to do this. So if they know how to do this, they're going to do this. So if they're going to do this, then we need to prepare ourselves. So because we don't want a mine shaft gap, right? That's the punchline. No. That's the punchline in Dr. Strangelove, right?
Yeah. General, he's going to see the big board. We got a mine shaft gap. Yeah. George C. Scott and Terry Southern. Terry Southern's the guy who doesn't get a lot of credit. Of course, Stanley Kubrick gets a lot of credit. We've been going through a lot of movies today, haven't we? Already. But
you made an obtuse Annie reference, and then I made a more obtuse J.P. Morgan reference, because Annie was based on Little Orphan Annie and Daddy Warbucks. I'm sorry, it wasn't J.P. Morgan. It was Warburg. I think it was Warburg was Daddy Warbucks. So, yeah. But
we talked about a couple of other movies. The Chinatown was how we opened this thing with. Don't worry, Jake. It's just Chinatown was the line from Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. Go ahead.
And you're a nosy fellow.
And you're nosy.
You know what happens to nosy fellows, George.
And then they take the knife and right there.
Yeah.
And it's Azovstal. And Azovstal does seem to be the kind of, I wrote a piece in Substack called The Apotheosis of Azovstal.
So it's on the Duke Report then, if you
Oh, it is. Yeah. If we went to the Duke Report, Peter, I was just thinking the other day, if there was only one place where you could see all the great creative effort of great creators all over the world, and you could somehow see them updated all in one place. That would be something similar to Nirvana. And I don't want to drag Kurt Cobain in here, bless his heart, bless his soul. Oh my goodness, what's this, Peter? What do you have in front of you?
I have George Webb here, Azovstal, the black hole of Corona. So now we're using multiple black hole of Calcutta.
Yeah.
Chinatown. We've got them all. So if we click here, then we're going to see that there it is.
Oh wow! Look at that. So there is such a place. There is such a place. It's called the Peter Duke Report. It's actually the Duke Report.
It's actually called the Duke Report. Yes, because
I don't even have to put Peter in. You're telling me I can save keystrokes. It's just the Duke Report.
Yes, but if you put in Duke Report without the, then you're going to get Duke basketball.
Oh,
and I don't know if you ever played Duke when you were at Miami, Ohio, but
no. They were playing for the championship. We were watching them from the front row. Yeah, right. Not even the front row. We were in the back. But yeah, so this Duke Report, we kid a lot, we joke a lot, we chortle, but this is one of the great resources on the internet where you can go to one place and see all your favorite creators. And Peter's got this it's hot. It's dynamic as people are doing things, updating things. It's appearing right there.
It changes all the time. So I have to just I have to dig into it every day, just like everybody else, in order to figure out what story to put up on the top. But it's constantly changing. The only thing that I'm curating are you're calling them creators. I think they're journalists. You guys are digging.
Absolutely.
And somebody suggested earlier that they thought I should add The Blaze and Tucker Carlson and some other outlets. And, I'm trying to stay away from what I call bias-confirming outlets. There are lots of outlets on the internet, and I'm not saying that they are dishonest or they don't tell the truth, but they cater to a specific audience, which is confirming the bias of those people. And so, for example, yesterday, I'll take this down. Yesterday, I was watching Richard Grove, who Addie and I had on last week. He's been doing this since 2009, and he like James Corbett, he's got thousands of videos that I never even knew existed before. And so I kind of went back to the very beginning, and Richard Grove interviewed this guy named John Taylor Gatto. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was Teacher of the Year in the early 2000s. And when they started asking him how he was such an effective teacher, he let him in on the secret that he ignored the curriculum. And he basically had his own way of teaching things. And he became kind of a pariah, and at the same time that this was happening, he started digging into the history of education, and so he goes into kind of like the Prussian takeover of education, and he goes all the way back, 500 years. But these 5 videos are just kind of fundamental. And when I was looking at it, why am I talking about this? Because when I watched the first 2 hours of 5 hours yesterday, and I realized, 2009, all this stuff that he's talking about Darwin, and he's talking about Francis Galton. And I was thinking, this is where Glenn Beck stole all of his best material, was from these 5 hours by Richard Grove. So
you're leaving me out of that? Okay, no, I'm kidding.
Well, this was 2009. What were you doing in 2009?
Oh, no, you're right. I wasn't there. Yeah.
No, I wasn't there. I hadn't even met Andrew Breitbart yet. I still had my head completely wedged in a giant mound of sand. I had no idea what was going on. I probably still had a George W. Bush picture on my bulletin board, But no, I was. But so this is a kind of a long answer to the idea that. So I'm not going to put the Blaze up. Probably, I'm not going to put Tucker Carlson up, even though I like Tucker Carlson. Because if you want that stuff, go to Fox. Go to the Blaze. You can go to. This is where you're going to go find the stuff. These are all the people who've been basically blown off the internet, right? On the Duke Report. Like
I get the references to Darwin, but Francis Galton, the statistician guy, is that who I'm thinking of?
Yeah, apparently he was Darwin. He was Darwin's his cousin, and they were both heirs to the Wedgwood fortune.
Oh, the crystal in Ireland.
Or
New England, Wedgwood.
What I think? No, I'm not sure. I think it was Wedgwood.
Okay.
And so they were fabulously wealthy. And Galton was also a racist against the Irish people. He believed that the Irish should be decimated from the planet. And so Gatto really kind of digs deep. And I'll post links to this stuff. I'll send you links later. But if you go to, I think, and again, Richard Grove, I love him. Tragedy and Hope, which was his original website, kind of seems abandoned. His current website right now is Grand Theft World. And if you sign up for his newsletter, one of the first things that you get when you get his newsletter is you get access to these 5 videos, which I highly recommend because the guy who he's interviewing is a world-class teacher. He won Teacher of the Year 2 years in a row before they kicked him out of the New York city school system.
Now, here's what I love about Dave Underdown. He tells me, because, sometimes you say things.
Right.
Because you're...
Right.
Yeah.
And Dave says Wedgwood is porcelain from England.
Right. You're thinking out loud. You're thinking, is that the Irish crystal? And I'm that's escaping me, the famous Irish crystal. So it's not. It's the porcelain. And the porcelain goes into making those N95 porcelain bomblets at Hanscom Air Force Base. That changes the history of bioweapons in America. So thank you very much for the Wedgwood reference there, Dave. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to get with Dave Underdown at 7 o'clock tonight, Eastern Standard Time. With
I think I think we could call Dave the walking. Some people are called the walking encyclopedia. I think Dave may be the walking footnote.
Yeah, it's always nice to have that real-time fact-checking. And I'm now told that there's also fine china. involved with Wedgwood. So now here's these guys with time on their hands is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing they've got all kinds of money, and now I can start talking about statistics, and one of the other ones can start talking about evolution, and we got time on our hands is what I'm picking up.
Yeah. But what's really interesting, like when I was watching Grove yesterday, and Gatto is just spitting books out, and as he's spitting books out, I'm putting the books into the Duke Report as fast as I can because I have the book section in there too, and it's kind of basically just turned into a reference for me because like if he thinks this is an important book to read, then maybe it is, and if I want to go find it again, I can put it in my Amazon book list or something, but if I just stick it in the Duke Report, then I can share it with everybody.
Well, and I believe in semiotic learning and absorption, which is a combination of audiovisual, poetry, comedy, every device that you could possibly use to make something stick. And
right.
That was taught to me by one, Antonio Benassi, who came out with the wise sniffer to be able to sniff out nanoparticles. And when you're sniffing nanoparticles, what better time to learn about semiotic learning? So there you have it. It's the semiotic wise sniffer available today at Walmart.
So semiotics is normally, as I understand it, is kind of like the science of symbology, right?
Well, the elementary understandings would have that, Peter. But
okay.
If you really get into the depth of semiotics, you start seeing that from mere pictures on the wall, imagine that you can tell people's mood, you can tell people's health, you can actually predict their future. You can
or you can program them too, right? You can
very much so. It's a subliminal tool as well.
So what does that have to do with small particles?
Well, it turns out that the Antonio makes a Weiss mirror, W-Y-S-E mirror. And imagine this, mounting a Weiss mirror in your home. And young, beautiful women were supposed to go to this mirror every day and then say, sort of, mirror, mirror on the wall, how do I feel today? While they're just, exiting from the shower, right? And Antonio Benassi is going to be somewhere in one of the NATO encampments in England, in Holland or wherever he is, and he's supposed to read the facial expressions. He's not going to look anywhere else. He's just going to read the facial expressions and then tell the person, you should get a little bit more sun, or maybe you should walk a little bit more. And this is the Weiss mirror, and this was the semiotic mirror that Antonio Benassi was pushing out. In addition to that,
so it's a mirror that has some kind of a camera built into it that can tell the mood of the person who's looking in the mirror
and health, and look at their eyes and tell health from their eyes and tell from the skin. They can make and then be sort of a health advisor. But it didn't go very well because people thought, well, isn't that sort of like pervy, kind of luring into people's, bathroom in the morning? It doesn't seem right. So it didn't go well. But he did come out with the Weiss semiotic sniffer.
And how do you smell that again?
W-Y-S-E. Weiss. The Weiss semiotic mirror was going to be, maybe found in every quality American home. But then it died because it was seen as an obtrusive device. But
then they went into the airport scanner business instead.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I just went to England and I went through and it scanned my face, and apparently through this facial recognition, not only can tell the person and see that I had my shot, and whatever, but also if I have bad intentions. It can tell if I have bad intentions. So the technology is being used. So
in Minority Report, there was thought crime. So the Weiss mirror allows you to see face crime?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Antonio Benassi brought to you. And where the particles
So you have to practice smile therapy in order to get through it.
It's too good. You're not getting by the Weiss semiotic mirror. It's too good. And the other thing is his closely related cousin, NATO funded cousin, NATO's DARPA, which I think is the Office of Scientific Technology, the European Office of Scientific Technology, But they also funded these things called plasmons. So these are energy absorbing particles that you can inhale through vaping, if you like to vape, or various other means, and they accumulate inside the lungs, and they're potentially imageable when you go through a Leidos scanner. I'm not making this up.
So it's like smart dust for vapes?
It's quantum dots
Yeah.
for vapes and other, just you can breathe it through air conditioning systems and so forth. And supposedly the idea is that not only people would accumulate the nanoparticle or the quantum dot outside their clothes, but when they change their clothes, that's a problem, right? For identification purposes, now you got it inside. Now you got it inside them. And we think that Dr. Robert Malone, the very popular Dr. Robert Malone, might have been involved with this because two of his partners were Leidos, the scanning company that you go through at the airport, and the other one was the Vapor Bar. And he was working with a lot of tobacco companies on a synthetic tobacco, which would include these nanoparticles. So there you have it. Semiotics has come home to roost right here in America. So it's the wildest thing that I've heard all day. Now that we've got you going and we've set the hook here, I might just go give you a little video of the Y sniffer and let you see it.
Okay.
You might think I'm making it up, but not true.
George, that's not often.
Not often. Here we go.
Yeah.
But
the high octane speculation only comes up when I'm trying to protect myself.
No, I understand that. That's you got to keep the show must go on.
Indeed.
And I'll get it here in a second.
So anyway, it seems to me that like if your lungs are like fingerprints, then not only could they identify certain that you've allowed yourself to be tracked in a certain way, but they could probably identify who you are by the unique shape of your lungs.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah.
I think there's
like a thumbprint or something.
Yes, I think that's the idea.
A lung print. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
We need to be able to detect nanoparticles in our daily lives. Yeah, we do. It's like they don't. Yeah, they're just going to run out, and they're going to let you know everything that they're doing. So Robert Malone, interesting. Yeah, so that's another level of limited hangout, right?
Well, we looked at a lot of different people selling vaping products from Pakistan, and I don't want to get into all those, but they seem to have. They were also the head of Riceland hospitals. Now, how does that happen? There's this guy named Javid who was selling vape products. He's selling THC products. He's selling various other convenience store products. He's also selling meat. We talked about the pork and so forth out of Texas. And he's also the CEO of Riceland hospitals. How do you do that unless there's some semiotic connection between those two things? It just seems like a CEO at Riceland Hospitals, to hear Javid is his name, shouldn't be selling stuff that's bad for your health.
What's interesting too, as you're saying that, is I think about someone close to me likes to vape, and so we go to vape stores all the time. So I'm in different vape stores, and it seems like they're very kind of like they're either Russians or they're Iranians, Persians. But you've got you don't see a lot of Americans running vape stores, which is interesting. So it's the new 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think they're Javid had a whole series of mainly people from Pakistan, but India and so forth. It kind of makes a little bit of sense because you have to work extremely long hours in retail. And somebody always has to be minding the store 16 hours a day. So, there's very few Americans that want to work 16 hours a day. Maybe there's some cross-cultural reasons, but you're right. They do tend to focus in on the tobacco type products. And
right, but if they're distributing semiotic nanoparticles to different populations, then they're again. Here's where I'm going in my head. I'll try. People are bad mind readers, so I'll try to use my mouth. The amount of data. So when So somebody came to me 6 months ago and was working on one of these voter data integrity projects, and I was going over a bunch of ping data that they bought for one of the state elections, and in my being briefed into this, I realized that almost every app, like the thing that you don't read when you click accept this when you install a new program on your phone, like you don't really have to worry about Apple or Facebook or Google, because every single app on your phone is selling data on you, and there are brokerages where you can go and you can buy this data, right? So you may have a face swapping app or something like that on your phone. Those things track you. They track what you do. They track where you are. They track when you are. You can create maps and behavioral, do all kinds of behavioral analysis based on practically every app on your phone. So the more apps you have on the phone, the more data that's available for sale to you. So now cut to this nanoparticle thing. And if you're actually seeding people with data markers, because that's basically what you're saying, right? You're seeding people with data markers, then you're creating new ways to mine data on individuals using different types of scanners, right? So on the internet, you've got pings, but if you've got, I don't know if those things are maybe they react to 5G, or maybe they react to RFID, or maybe there's some other way of doing that. But to me, it's just another way that we're data marking ourselves.
We call them bing bings. They're pings with phones, but these are bing bings. That's something I made up, not true. But these are bing bings, and you get the bing bing when you know above 5G. 5G goes a lot higher than I'm trying to remember, 28 gigahertz, all the way up to like 97 gigahertz or something. And then it started out at like 6 gigahertz. So 5G covers a big, broad spectrum, and they put in the first antennas.
But it's actually, this is where it gets confusing, because it's big and broad, but it's actually narrow and small, right? Because
the actual wavelength is.
But the wavelengths are getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, but the near the gigahertz range, getting in that neighborhood at the end of 5G where 6G starts, is a whole bunch of new imaging technology that used mainly in military previously, but they're great for these nanoparticles. This, Emilio Benassi is the key guy. If you want to look at plasmons, you can look at Emilio Benassi and look at his research, and it really does kind of make your day. You want something that's biometric, that's biocompatible, or a bio coupling to the person to know it's that person for real. You could do no better than Enrico Benassi's plasmons, because if they're going underneath a tower or through a gate or through a sensor or whatever, that it's that person. No matter what they're wearing or whatever, you know who it is.
That would be another reason to bring your own cigars to a cigar party, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they're pretty smart about working up the supply chain, so you better roll your own, I think. And they wanted to Robert Malone actually wanted to substitute a new synthetic tobacco, so to make existing tobacco obsolete by injecting a virus in it and killing it off, so that only the synthetic tobacco would live, sort of like what GMOs did with Monsanto for rice and corn. So that's a real proposal in order to control the supply of tobacco. Not kidding.
Right. Well, I'm putting up the high octane speculation because when I was reading Dr. Mary's Monkey, and I was listening to what Judith Ferry Baker was talking about creating virus-borne cancer that could be delivered in. They were talking about tobacco for Fidel Castro's cigars, right? And then I was thinking about the explosion of cancer in in the 1950s and 1960s from cigarettes, and I was going, was that a lab leak? Was that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or was that a shakedown? Did somebody go to Philip Morris and say, you need to do this, or we're going to do this?
Remember how they went from like the Dutch Masters version of the cigar had like 4 components or something like that, to when they went to the Philip Morris version and the Richmond, Virginia version, it had like 200 chemicals, and it was supposed to keep the cigarette burning without, too much maintenance, and it was supposed to keep the whatever smelling good or whatever. There's all these reasons why these adjuvants were put in, but it was like 200, at the end of the day. So it was a lot. And so we don't know. We don't know.
Right. So that was that. So when I was reading, that book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, and I got to that part, it made me really go, things that make you go,
Yeah. Well, they've been going a long time at the Tobacco Institute. This was the key funder, and then they changed it over to some other institute, the American, people who have the right to choose or something like that. It says nothing about tobacco. But they're the big funders of this. And if you look at now, they're talking about vaccines being grown. The number one target is that, I'm trying to remember the generic name of the tobacco plant, but they want to use the tobacco plant to grow it. And again, Dr. Robert Malone, not kidding, in Virginia where he lives, on the tobacco farms where he lives, not kidding. Who knew that General George Washington was living right under his feet? Under his feet were the tobacco plants that would later become the most effective weapons in his U.S. Army.
And how was that?
Well, because you could actually...
you're talking about...
grow bioweapons.
You mean in the 2022
Yeah.
U.S. Army? I see,
Yeah.
yes.
If he only had some foresight, but here's Washington kicking over things, saying, I don't want to be on a tobacco farm the rest of my life. I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. I want to go see the world, and I want to get surveyors.
And Alexander Hamilton says, well, I'll pay for your army. No, I'm making that up.
Well, he did, but I think there's a connection that goes way back to the birthday of Alexander Hamilton in a small part of the Dominican Republic.
In Nevis. Wasn't he born in Nevis?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that George Washington went on his big spring break bender in Nevis 9 months before Alexander Hamilton was born. I'm not trying to connect the dots here, but you draw your own conclusions. I think everybody and their brother knows that you don't make an 18-year-old the head of the artillery for the Continental Army unless there's a family connection with George Washington.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. Well, why did he always have... Did you ever notice, like Yorktown? Not to get into Alexander Hamilton conspiracy theory, but here's Yorktown. They're battling 9 years back and forth, people dying everywhere. But it's Alexander Hamilton that just happens to go and run over the last redoubt, right? Where the last, British were, dying or whatever, and taking the last redoubt in the war so that they can't just say he was one of those shoot him from afar soldiers. He actually had the Medal of Honor moment to win the war, even though it didn't end then. But you know what I mean? A little bit scripted.
Very interesting.
There you go.
Yeah, it reminds me of Rommel in his book Infantry Greif on. He was the Pour le Mérite was the highest German honor, and his commander told him that if he captured this hill, that he would give him the Pour le Mérite. So Rommel went and captured this hill, and he was securing the line. He was securing his position on the top of the hill, and while he was on the top of the hill, another officer ran down the hill and claimed that he had captured the hill, and he got the Pour le Mérite. So then Rommel had to go do it over again later. He had to go do something else over again to finally get that medal that he wanted. So this seems to be like an ongoing thing. It's like you got to do this certain thing so you can get the medal, so you can get the recognition, so that it goes into the history books, so that it winds up becoming a thing or a reason why you got promoted, or,
That's happened with you with the Oscar, 20 times now? I'm just saying, you've had it snatched from your hands. I thought I saw Will Smith actually slapping an Oscar from your hand at one time, but
no, I think I was a member. There was an Academy. There was an interactive. There's a division of the Academy Awards the Motion Picture Academy called the Interactive Academy, I believe. And I think that, well, the Xfiles.com won an award, I think, back in 93 or something. My boss went to the awards ceremony. I didn't go. It's like, I didn't know. I don't even think I knew about it. Like it was like a dinner at some club or something. But I think that there was a division. I used to. I think I might have been a member of something that was associated with the Academy at one point, but it was years ago.
Well, they had that other night, you know, because they kind of tested everything out for the Academy. You remember when it was at Grumman's that they used to kind of, are the lines, the electric lines all set up right? Are the lights all set up right? And they would go through,
Grauman's Chinese, right?
Yeah, and then they would go through all the motions for the ne'er-do-wells that were doing, like, I don't know, best grip, you know, key grip.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
It was the minor awards.
Yeah.
You know?
The best script supervisor, or
montage.
Yeah, exactly.
And then realization was another one I always liked. You know.
Right. It was the B players. It wasn't it was the below. So in Hollywood, when you're breaking down a script, you have the below the line. They call it below the line and above the line. And above the line is there's a producer whose job it is to budget and schedule everything, and that producer is called the line producer. And so everything that's below the line is the craft trades. So your director of photography, depending upon how big of a star they are, if they're getting paid scale, they're below the line. Okay, so if you're just a run-of-the-mill DP and you can't negotiate your rate, there's a union minimum, right? So if you're a union minimum, then you're below the line, because that's the line that is set. I guess the line has to do with the payment line, right? So people that are above the line are people who get more than union, right? They get more than the union minimum. So talent, for example, like a movie star, SAG says that you get this much money per hour if you're an actor, right? But that's not what Tom Cruise gets, right? No. So Tom Cruise is way above the line.
Yeah, I got you.
So I think that what you're talking about, bringing it back to your point, is that there's basically in the Academy Awards they have below the line awards, which are kind of off television, and then they have above the line awards, which are on television.
Well, that's a perfect segue into a couple of the Academy Award nominees that didn't quite make it this year. We have a couple of Azovstal documentaries. Did you get these, Peter, when I sent them to you? Did you get the...
is it in Twitter, private comments, or where?
I sent it to you, I think, on message. Just
okay. Hang
or
on.
It could be Twitter. But these are the ones that didn't quite get there.
Okay, I don't see it in message, so let me go look in Twitter.
Yeah, these are the ones that if you watched Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, you might have missed it. But these are the ones that are about this steel mill owned by this Ukrainian billionaire in Azovstal. Remember, this is the favorite place to hide bioagents. They're not bioweapons, we know, because that's a trigger word. They're bioagents. We still don't know to this minute if there are any things. Let me see how I sent those to you. I think we were sending messages back and forth to each other.
Yes, I looked in text messaging, I looked in Twitter, I looked in private chat.
It's in our regular messages. So there's Clute has been nominated.
I see that.
Clute's one of them, and then.
I see. I thought you were sending me a link to a video.
No.
Okay.
Then,
yes, I see. I know how to manage this then. Okay, so Clute, and then
I can send you some other ones right now. These are 3 different nominations we've had.
Okay. Yeah, because if you send them to me, then I can put them all up at the same time.
Okay. There's the Black Hole of Azovstal.
Okay, I've got that.
You've got that one? Okay.
Okay.
And then we've got Clute has been renominated. Who thought they would bring back Clute from 1969? Jane Fonda gives that great performance with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, Donald Sutherland.
Sutherland, excuse me.
Yes.
What did I say?
Kiefer's dad.
Oh, Kiefer's dad. Okay, I should have just said Kiefer's dad. This one was for best arc direction. We had another Black Hole of Calcutta,
Yeah.
and it was just, I thought the coloration, I thought they did a great job with the coloration. These are the ones that didn't quite make it, but we thought we'd bring it to you here today.
All right.
Black Hole, not of Calcutta, but of Azovstal.
All right, I'm bringing it up right now. Okay, so share.
Here we go. And you could vote at home. Feel free to go ahead and punch in on Twitter or with the electronic device that the Academy has given you. Isn't that a beautiful photo there? I don't think you could make a steel mill look quite that beautiful. But the great artistic use of electronic programs like Prism.
So this is you love Prism, don't you?
I like Prism. I like a Snapseed.
Snapseed. Yep.
Yeah.
The black hole as a now. So what are we looking at here? This is the steel mill.
This is the steel mill
outside of Maripol.
Yes, and it's 17 kilometers long. This is huge. Anyway, there's a underground set of just underground railroads to supply coal to the blast furnaces here and so forth. But there is now these NATO guys supposedly down there, and this is sort of the bottom of the drain for all the Azov Brigade Battalion. Supposedly 3,000 down there, and there's supposedly like 3 or 4 dozen NATO people from like 6 or 7 different countries. So they're closing in. They're closing off the entry and exit points.
So did I hear correctly that that there was a press release where they released pictures of people like Cloutier and said these people are not being held prisoner, they're out, except that somebody fact-checked the photographs and found out that they were old photographs?
They were only a year old, but still, why would you do that? Supposedly the conference was on the 5th, but there was a couple of pictures that were included in the NATO package that were from 2021. Now, why would you do that? The only reason potentially why you would have such a high-level person there would be that it would be such a high-level top-secret program like a bioagent program. And remember, the Russians actually put out the actual, again today, that Congo-Crimea hemorrhagic fever was, I can send you that one too if you want. Congo-Crimea hemorrhagic fever, I didn't send you the right thing, was planned to be released in the Ukraine. Now, I'm not sure if that's true or not true, but this is what the Russians say. Now, this is a good one. Clute. Are we ready to move on to the next movie, Peter?
I guess I was just trying to cover while you were looking for whatever it is that you were looking for.
Okay, I sent you another one.
Okay.
Now, Clute, the movie Clute, might be something that you used as a shortened affectation for a person named Cloutier. Okay? Let's just accept that fact.
Okay.
So think of Clute and Cloutier. Think of, instead of saying, oh, Cloutier, you say, hey, Clute. Okay? Now, you've seen the nuclear football. You've seen it going around with the president. There's usually a person in a uniform from one of the services carrying the nuclear football. Sometimes people brag about that, meaning that you want to make sure that the key codes, the key operational codes are with the president because it's such an important decision. You don't want this being made remotely by somebody pushing a button that you don't know for sure the president is pushing the button, right? Well, why wouldn't you have something similar to that for bioweapons or bioagents? Is there a bioagent football, in other words? And would you give that football only to the person, like a 3-star general, like Cloutier, like Clute, to make sure that not a low-level person was, let's say, releasing a new pandemic like Congo-Crimea hemorrhagic fever? Well, I was actually in Montreal. I was there actually 5 years ago now, looking for the bioagent football. Now, I didn't know it was called Clute at that time. I'm just calling the bioagent football Clute. But who knew that they did a film? Who knew they did a film, Peter, where they tried to call the guy with the the bioagent football, and nobody answered? Because right now, nobody's answering. Nobody's answering. Is he down there? Is Clute down there in that Azovstal?
So I've brought up your graphics. Are these your supporting graphics for that story?
This is a tangential, irrelevant graphic.
Okay, so let me go through.
This is a supporting graphic. The program was called UP8, which was to release Congo-Crimea hemorrhagic fever on the people of Russia. And it was the contractor was.
And who wanted to do this?
Well, we don't know if it was NATO or just.
But this was in a
Ukrainians.
lab someplace.
Yeah, it was this. This came out of the Odessa lab. This UP8. This remember when we did the birds a couple of weeks ago? This was that same project to have these ticks and fleas that infected birds to vector.
And Odessa is a name that just keeps coming back, right? Odessa, the Odessa Network, Reinhard Gehlen. It's like
the Odessa File, the movie, The Odessa File.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and that was a book about Gehlen, right? Or I mean,
The Odessa File was a book about missiles that sprayed bioweapons as they flew. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Okay, well, hang on. I got to write this down and put the. Actually, I don't have to write it down because I'm making a video, and I can. But yeah, I'll have to go put the. Now I have to add the Odessa File to the Duke Report.
Well,
And it was a movie too, wasn't it?
yeah, I can share it with you even if you want. I don't normally do this, but I feel comfortable enough with you, Peter, that I can do this. I'll share this movie with you. Hopefully, we won't get a copyright strike. Maybe we will.
Well, if we turn the volume down, maybe, and we talk over it, we can sneak through it. The Odessa File. Yes, I need to go back and review 3 Days of the Condor too, because that's definitely like a Reinhard Gehlen film, right?
Yeah, it's 3 Days of the Condor is about a guy who, I don't know if you can see it or not on here or not.
Oh wait, hang on. Add to stream.
There you go.
All right.
And this is there's your friends there to the right, Reinhard Gehlen and folks. And this is the movie, which it's about a bunch of Nazis who are trying to escape at the end of World War II, and they decide that they need to kind of dress up as fishermen and whatnot, different people in the maritime trades, in order to get out to different places like South America. But they say, wait a minute, we have all these weapons from the old days when we designed bioweapons, and we used them in these death camps.
Right.
And let's design a missile, that sprays this stuff as we go. And so that's what the Odessa File is about. And art imitates life maybe here 40 years later.
Yeah, it seems like the V1 would be very efficient at doing something like that with its ramjet and a kind of low altitude. It would.
Don't quote me here.
Yeah.
But the guy who used to live here in Atlanta, Georgia, Reinhard Gehlen, von Braun, used to live here. The CDC in Atlanta it existed, but they wanted to co-opt the CDC, the paperclip Nazis, to be the payload for a biological missile. If you look back to the Nazis during the war, where at middle work they were working on the V1 and V2, they were also working on bomblets for the payload. If they could have, for instance,
right, because you don't need to have these huge packages, right? If you're payload packages, if you're doing bio.
Yeah, it can be as slow as you want. It can be as inaccurate as you want, as long as it creates fear and panic, and then makes Britain want to surrender or at least come to terms. Then it serves its purpose. And I think that von Braun, to the end of his World War II, said, "Hey, you guys on the payload side, we guys on the platform side delivered. You guys on the payload side did not deliver. That's why we lost the war."
Right.
So this is the Odessa File, and
well, in Annie Jacobson's book, there's and I don't know if this is a parallel construction or what, but that von Braun actually had, when he was in the SS, and he had been complaining that he didn't like using the V2s to blow up civilians, and that it came to Himmler's attention, and that that guy who was his superior at Nordhausen stepped in and covered for him. And then later, when they were escaping Germany and coming to the United States, that von Braun repaid the favor because the Allies wanted to hang that guy. I can't remember which guy it was, and so von Braun returned the favor.
I'm just trying to think of the different Nazi guys. Probably at the doctor's trial, Nazi doctor's trial. There's quite a few. Schraber. Walter Schreiber.
Walter Schreiber. No, Walter Schreiber was a doctor. There was a actual rocket scientist who was von Braun's superior, I think, at Nordhaus.
Dornberg.
Walter Dornberger.
Dornberger. He ends up becoming the head of CEO of Bell Helicopter.
Right. So so von Braun was apparently again.
They weren't involved in war.
This is a story. The way that Annie Jacobsen tells the story, I think, is that von Braun was complaining. Again, this is kind of trying to paint him as the good Nazi, right? That von Braun was complaining that he didn't like using the V2s to target civilians, and then Himmler found out, and then Dornberger stepped in, and then when the war ended, they wanted to hang Dornberger, but von Braun said, no, you can't hang him because he's a very important guy, and then he wound up. But I think he worked at NASA also before he went to Bell Helicopters, didn't he? Or didn't he have something to do with that?
He worked for Bell Aircraft, and then Bell Aircraft decided that, hey, we're getting our butt kicked by all the other airplane companies, but where there is a hole in the market is helicopters. And so when they had that technology, they're like, well, wait a minute, helicopters slower, can't have as much, ammo, machine guns, anything like that, not as many bombs. The only thing this thing would be good for, I think there's even a board meeting to this effect, the only thing this would be good for is if we had a jungle war in some place like Vietnam.
Right.
And then everybody stopped and looked at each other in the meeting and goes, hey, wait a minute, aren't the French involved in Vietnam? We could take over for Vietnam. And that's where, that idea launched. I don't know how many Bell helicopters they sold in Vietnam.
Right. Well, there's so much confusion because I think that Fletcher Prouty talks about how on the last day of World War II, he was in Okinawa, and he asked the quartermaster there if they were going to ship all of the supplies back to the United States that were staged for the invasion of Japan, and the quartermaster said, "Oh no, we have a contingency plan. If the war ends, we're going to send half of the stuff to Korea and the other half to Vietnam." And the stuff actually got sent to Ho Chi Minh because Ho Chi Minh had appeared with, I don't remember who the CIA guys were, Bill Donovan and Richard Bissell or somebody like that.
I think it was Bill Donovan, yeah.
Bill, and he held up a copy, Ho Chi Minh held up a copy of the Declaration of Independence from the United States, and they declared their independence from the French. With all of these weapons that had been given to them by the United States, and then a couple of months later, the Americans changed sides again because the French complained.
Yeah, well, I think this is one of those things where we accidentally give, like, for instance, in Azovstal, I mean, if you follow the Hunter Biden blackberries, there's also a connection here. The Metabiota and the Burisma blackberries lead to this Azovstal place through a guy named the billionaire named Renat Akhmetov is his name. And he owns this plant, and he's very involved with this Metabiota, just like Kolomoisky is. So there's a connection there. But we won't go into that right now because we're coming up on the hour. But I did want to give a free plug here to the great folks that did this Odessa File. Great movie. And our other movies, maybe not as great as the Odessa File, but we got a couple in here, which is, a Black Hole of Azovstal.
Indeed. Well, thanks, George. And
yeah.
We'll do this again. So I'm going to see you again on Tuesday. Is that it?
Yeah, Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. We have Peter Duke with the Duke Report. So if you didn't catch up,
hopefully.
Well, we didn't get a lot. We
got
Duke Report today.
We got more Duke Report today than we got it on the Duke Report section of Neighborhood News Studio. But That's okay. It's all good. The
It's all good.
traffic is good at the Duke Report. It getting stronger every day. I'll put my plug in and tell everybody bookmark and share the Duke Report. I'm not depending on social media. I'm depending on you to let people know that if they actually want, if they start telling you about how great Tucker Carlson is this week, or some other person that is managing to cater to their biases, let them know that there's other points of view out there in the world. I love Tucker. I think he's great, but he is an establishment player, and he has to stay between the lines. He doesn't get to put full octane speculation on the bottom of his lower third, right? So if you want to try to find out what's really going on, and if you want to clue in your friends, then turn them on to the Duke Report. And I can tell you this, that I think about 60% of the people who go to the Duke Report are, they do have it bookmarked, and they are coming back. They're coming back all the time. So most of the traffic on the Duke Report is return visits. I think that the average number of links that people click on is 2.6 links. I know that because I use Modimo analytics, which is not Google. We don't share our analytics with anybody, but we like to know what's going on. So thanks to everybody, and share that stuff, and get your friends to go bookmark the Duke Report.
And there is actually no new movie called Black Hole of Azovstal. It's actually my latest Substack that I have out there today. So if you want to check that out on Substack, you can. And I'll see you, Peter, on Tuesday at 5 p.m. and 2 o'clock West Coast time on Tuesday.
Thank you, George. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.